welcome to the Astrology Podcast. This is where we look at the astrology of the week and talk about it in a way that isn't turbo astrological so that anybody can understand. But even if you are advanced, maybe you're getting a perspective that is fresh and helps you to navigate the week. I'm really enjoying doing it because I was a bit of a lazy astrologer. I looked at the big stuff that happened to me, and like if someone said, can you write some horoscopes, I'd go and look at it. But I'm not always living in the future. I'm not like addicted to my ephemeриdes and constantly searching for what's going on. But it's a nice practice to have. And I feel like I can give my friends better advice, for instance, like casual astrology. The other day, I told Izzy, went to like, oh, don't launch your website before the new moon. Like, this applies to all of you. Like, if you're launching something, you want to do it with a waxing moon. The waxing moon is from the new moon, which is the new moon is the invisible moon when the sun and moon are together. So there's no reflection, so you can't see the moon. And then she gets bigger in light and until we have a full moon. And that's growth. Like, it's kind of, if you think about it, it's very literal. The moon is growing in size. So if you are seeding anything, you want to do it from the beginning, the new moon, in the growth cycle up to the full moon. You would never announce something into a dying moon, as in, we all know that the day of the new moon perhaps is going to be whatever, let's say the 5th of November. If you launch something on the 4th, that is an ending cycle. The moon is still shrinking. There's still a tiny little crescent in the morning. And then she becomes new, and that's an ending. So that's when you banish. That's when you release. That's when you put things back to the earth. Like, you put things to rest. Our energy is low. We are physically lethargic often, unless there's like a Uranus aspect or it's in Gemini or something. We'll see. We've got a new moon in Gemini next week, but you don't want to start then. So you'll hear people say start at the new moon, but we mean after the new moon. And then we grow. But also the other aspects were taking place. Yes, the new moon was on Friday, but then Mars moved into Leo on the Sunday. So that's much more of an extravagant launch energy than having Mars at 29 Cancer, isn't it? That's kind of obvious to anyone who understands the energies, like the basic understanding of Cancer and Leo. Cancer is about home and family. And perhaps if that's the vibe, and you're doing something to do with property and food, then you might want to launch with the Cancer moon. But if you want to celebrate yourself and be seen and people to hear you and look at you, you want the Leo vibe. And I'm able to hold that in my head a bit more now. And anyway, I hope that information was useful for you. We are currently in a waning moon because we had the full moon last week. So this wouldn't be the time for launching anything, but it could be a great time for finishing projects, for completing, for moving things on. So here we are today. It is Wednesday the 7th. I've possibly already said that, but just to be sure, we know where we are. And as I look at the chart for the moment, well, it actually says 11:24. Let's correct that. What have we got? We've got Mercury at 24 Taurus. Interesting. Do you know why I'm saying interesting? Because yesterday I put out on Instagram, new website, new vibe, and I shared the new way I am communicating with people. And I also put the course out on Instagram, and people were signing up yesterday. I had a lot of communication with people yesterday, and Mercury was on my moon yesterday. So that's why I just said interesting. Again, lazy astrology. Probably should have been on top of that already. And we have the moon in Aquarius. She moved to Aquarius this morning and she met Pluto, where she's joined in this fixity. We are all very familiar with the fixity. So we have the fixed signs, Leo, Aquarius, Taurus, and Scorpio. And we have a lot of energy in this fixed ground cross at the moment. And it is pushing people over the edge. And that's why Venus moving into Leo, and as I incorrectly said, verbal typo, Venus Pluto, because as soon as she moved into Leo, this planet Venus moved into the sign of Leo. She opposed Pluto because he's in the sign opposite in Aquarius. And in that opposition, we have a head-to-head of fixed energies where Venus and Leo wants to shine and be attractive and enjoy herself and be the lioness, kind of preening and enjoying herself. I don't know if I said this, but when I know I wrote it in a newsletter, but I've not said it on the pod, I don't believe, that when I read Cry of the Kalahari, Crowd the Kalahari by Mark and Delia Owens, about these two young PhD students who went to live in Africa and study animals for 7 years. And they lived in insane wilderness, like properly cut off in the desert, no water. Mad. Like, to think, we challenge ourselves by going off on a trip, but we have our phones and we're so connected. This was an adventure that isn't possible anymore because of technology, to be that disconnected. I think it's such a gift to be able to be that disconnected. But I learned that the lionesses are terrible mothers. And I thought it was really interesting. They are 25% of lionesses, I think is the stat in the book, will just sack their children off. They have babies and then they're just like, effort. They want to hang out with their mates. Lions hang out in a pride. Hang out is probably not the correct terminology, but we're colloquial on the oddcast. That's how we roll. So the lions are all gelling together and they like to play. They're big cats. They like to play. They like to tear up their tents as well. They would nick stuff. Lions are just like, we're here, we're on tour. And a lot of them abandon their cubs. And I thought it was really, really interesting because in popular culture and on astrologers as well, we would say, oh, she's fierce like a lion, or she's a lioness. She's so protective of her mother, of her cubs, oh, she's so fierce. Where actually, to understand the energy of Leo is actually to understand, I prefer to have a laugh with my mates and look after these kids, which we all are a child. That's what Leo is about. Leo is about, yes, you love your children and you can be creative and you paint the children paint a picture and you put it on the fridge, or you have your own creativity, whether you're making clothes or whether you're making a website or whether you're making anything creative, whether you're singing, whether you're a famous actor or whether you do Amdram with your mates, whatever it is, the Leo in you is the child in you. And Leo is about play and enjoyment. And so if you have a lot of Leo, we might think, oh, it's all about the children, but sometimes the lioness wants to be about herself. And that's why she abandons her cubs, because she's like, I want to play. I don't want this responsibility. And for me, it was really, really interesting to think about that and observe that idea of just that we've got it wrong, that we haven't completely understood, or at least I hadn't. I don't want to project onto you. Maybe you already knew this. But the idea that a lioness and Leo energy is actually about your own enjoyment. It's not everybody will enjoy the responsibility of children and putting them first. So Venus moved into Leo on Monday and she opposed Pluto in Aquarius. What did I hear? Oh, the Fern Cotton's Happy Place Festival posted a reel yesterday showing all the different audiences and the power of the crowd. It's a really good reel. I'll try and share it on my stories, actually, now I've said this. Just various performers, maybe Beyonce was one of them, I couldn't tell. And then the crowd singing back and this interaction. And I was like, that is such a perfect post for Venus and Leo opposing Pluto and Aquarius, because it's the relationship between Elton John, Beyonce, the Leo, the star, but also the Pluto and Aquarius, the power of the crowd, because the performer is fantastic, but they're fantastic because of the crowd. And the crowd helps or pushes and creates a tension that allows the performer to step up. And it was a beautiful manifestation of Venus opposite Pluto, I thought. In as much as we are only able to shine if there is an engaged audience. We are only able to do what we do. You hear that. You hear when people are interviewed, when, Backstreet Boys are interviewed on Going Live or Live and Kicking or whatever I watched when I was young. The bands would always say, thank you, we can't do what we do without you. And there is this Pluto and Aquarius. You can't have leaders without an appreciation. And so how does that fit for the Venus Pluto? I think it's about your own empowerment. If we internalize the whole lot, a baby born this week with Venus opposite Pluto, plenty of you will have Venus opposite Pluto. None of you will have it with Pluto in Aquarius and Venus in Leo, because that's not possible, because it hasn't happened for 260 odd years, or 46. I must learn that number. I think it's 246 years. I think 246. But I need to memorize it just for these moments. And And if you want to put yourself out there, you have to understand that probably in that crowd, like when you look at the crowd and you take a step back, you see everybody singing along and cheering and supporting the artist. But there's going to be probably a few husbands or boyfriends or mates who've been dragged along to that concert who are like, fuck this. I don't want to be here. I could be watching the football. I could have been at my mate's wedding. My girlfriend made me come. My boyfriend made me. There are going to be some people there who didn't want to. There are going to be some critics. It looks like when you take a step back, everybody's applauding, but there's going to be a few niggles, because there always are. And to step up into the power of the Venus and Leo, for you to show up in your life, whatever you are doing now, you don't have to be a performer or a creator or a writer. Whatever you're doing, if you sit in your exams and you're a teenager, or you're doing your gardening and you're retired, whatever it is, showing up and just instead of thinking about pleasing the crowd, think about creating what you love to create. Venus in Leo, the lioness, it's not about the responsibility to your children or to anyone else. It's about what a 4-year-old does when he's like, I just want some yellow now, and then I think I'm feeling green. And you're just coloring and you make this thing and you love it when you're 4 years old, and it's probably not that great, but you love it, and it's the maximum ability you have. And some children were talented. That wasn't me. Me and art have never gone together. But either way, I still really enjoy it. I do feel, this is an aside, but like I'm a handicapped artist. I think because I've got, Moon in Taurus should be very creative. Taurians, and I loved making things. I loved it. I spent hours cutting things out, gluing. That was my go-to sort of enjoyment as a child, but I'm not very good. But don't judge yourself, blah, blah, blah. But I'm just not very good. And I think that's why the whole website creation and branding creation has been difficult, because I know what I like. I know what I want things to be like, but I cannot do it. So I have to try and get other people to understand what I want, which makes me a really irritating client. But I get there in the end because I just need to see what I like, and I can collage it and I can recreate it and I can model it, but I'm not very good anyway. But I still enjoy it. Like sometimes I put my Instagram posts out and then, I know that they don't have the artistic quality, but I also love doing it. So it doesn't matter. And that's what we all need to do with this Venus in Leo. The crowd will appreciate, the crowd feels love, and the crowd feels when someone has put their heart and soul into something. And that is why we have to celebrate unique beauty. And it also, I would like to think with Venus in Leo, and it's going to be a very, very long transit because she's there till October the something. I don't know the exact date. Sorry. We'll put it in the notes, the date, all the moves of Venus. She goes into shadow pretty soon. She goes retrograde on the 22nd. She stations direct on the 3rd of September. She comes out of shadow on the 3rd of October. And I would imagine she leaves perhaps the 11th of October, around then, 10th of something around then, just before the eclipse. I think that's correct, to be honest, but we'll double check that. And then there's an eclipse on the 14th of October. And I said this in my Astrology of 2023 podcast at the beginning of the year, how so much of this year has been about Venus. I've called this year the love revolution because Pluto is at 0 Aquarius right now, and it is opposing Leo. And we have had eclipses in Taurus, Venus's sign, and Libra, Venus's sign. And there's been something about Leo is the heart and what we love, and Pluto moving into the sign opposite Leo is changing our values and what we love. I heard something great on the radio this morning. Sheila Hancock was on Chris Evans, and she said, the world is ready for new values. And I was like, yes, Sheila, the world is ready for new values. And I can't remember what she was talking about. She was on the radio for half an hour talking about so many things, but the world is ready for new values. And in so many things, she said something about, I'm not going to try and repeat it, because there's certain things that a 90-year-old can say and not be challenged because she's 90 years old. That just doesn't sound right in me repeating it. So I'm not going to go there. But coming back to Venus and this Pluto opposition, it's really activated again this theme of the year, which the overriding most interesting thing of 2023 was always going to be Pluto moving to Aquarius, I believe, because that's the rarest That's the rarest part of the year. The North Node in Jupiter conjunct the North Node in Taurus conjunct Jupiter in Taurus is also rare. That's not happened for ages and ages and ages. And the fact that Venus, Pluto, Jupiter, and the North Node in Taurus are all in this fixed T-square at the 0, 1, 2, 3 of the fixed signs is, I hadn't seen that when I made the podcast at the beginning of the year. This particular setup, I knew that Jupiter was going to be in Taurus and that we were going to have all this fixed energy in the love revolution. I hadn't properly clocked this very tight configuration that we're in at the minute. And it is fully activating 2023 for me, and people stepping into what they love and enjoying it. And the invitation is to like, be the lioness a little bit. Of course, we've got some pressure at the moment. Take action, transform, drop the dead wood, throw things out, step up. You can go further. Pluto and Jupiter are not low key. Pluto is god of death, and he's Scorpio and rules Scorpio, you know, transformation. And Jupiter rules Sag, and those two in aspect. The whole configuration is deep revolution. And I'm seeing it and I'm hearing it in people. I'm kind of amazed that it's happening, but people are stepping off. People are moving into something new. And it is, like I've said, it's like going to senior school this year. It's you were in primary school and you knew everything and you knew everyone in the school and you knew all the teachers, and you're moving into senior school and it's like, whoa, this is new. But then you just quickly adjust. And I think that's what this year's about. This is me keeping the podcast short. Welcome to that. So we've got Moon Pluto. Also, I often talk about crypto when we have this Aquarius Moon Pluto. I cannot believe, honestly, time is flying. That's the other thing, making these podcasts. I'm like, is it really 2 months since the first time I said that? It is, because it was April. Last time I spoke about the Moon Pluto in Aquarius and crypto, and I said, I'll just leave that there. That was 8 weeks ago. I find that mad. We don't need more digital currency. We already have them, said Gary Gensler. So in the US this week, Bitcoin, they were trying to sue Binance and Coinbase, and the price of Bitcoin dropped. And then Gary Gensler, who is someone US legislation, he said this, and it pumped the price because everybody realized that it's not actually about crypto being fair or corrupt. It's more about him trying to protect the dollar, the euro, and the central banking system. And so it's pumped. And that's quite important if you are thinking about value, because the whole year is about value. Then if Binance, which is a place where you can trade crypto, where you can buy your crypto and hold it, and Coinbase, which is like the main basic one, the simplest one that a lot of people started with in 2020. If they are being challenged, if they're being sued and the price hasn't dropped, that's very interesting. Molto interessante. And it will pay dividends, I believe, to be thinking about crypto a little bit ahead of the curve, because the banks are in debt and they're printing, and Pluto is moving back to Capricorn on Sunday, and Capricorn represents banking and government and hierarchy. And we are in the revolution of values, and that includes cash. It's not just about what you feel about yourself and the beauty industry. That was the other thing I wanted to say with the Venus-Pluto opposition. The beauty, this sameness, you know, Pluto and Aquarius, you must look the same. You must have your eyebrows like this, and you must like have big lips, and these certain trends that move through beauty. Maybe with the Venus Pluto, if Gen Z, everything that I heard about Gen Z at the Tinder gig I did, it's like, if Gen Z are as powerful and authentic as they are apparently are, then perhaps they're going to step away. I don't know. Maybe it's the next generation, but they have Pluto in Sag, the Gen Z. They have Pluto in Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is about openness, authenticity, and freedom, isn't it? It's not like that's what it's about. And what I learned at the Tinder gig was that those Gen Zers with Pluto in Sag are they don't ghost people, and they do tell people what they want, and they do reply on time, and they have that kind of no bullshit Sagittarius. Like, I'm not here to ghost you, manipulate you, just kind of play games. They're more honest, according to all the stats at Tinder. And I think that's, that a lot of them don't like makeup. I'm hearing, sorry, I'm so out of touch. It's really weird when you realize you're old, isn't it? Like, do you know what number 1 is in the charts? Because I do not. How can I be someone who doesn't know what number 1 is? It just happens, doesn't it? You just get old. Older. Is that a definition? Is that making me older? Not knowing what number 1 is? Probably not. Probably a little bit, let's be honest. Anyway, so we're talking about the world needs new values. And I do think it's about what we look like, what we value. It's also about the gender debate. It's also about money. It's also about crypto. And I think when I get to Pluto and Capricorn in a moment, we should talk about property, because there is a very, very, I'll do it now, so because I might forget, very, very pervasive belief that the property market is this consistent thing. It's a belief. Everything is a belief. I know money mindset. This is kind of reverse money mindset, because the money mindset is like, you can charge whatever you want. Like, everything's a belief, blah, blah, blah. I won't go into that now. I did it in the Jupiter and Taurus event, which I should put on my website so you can buy, because I thought it was quite good. Heidi will do that when she hears this in the edit. But we have this very pervasive belief. Property takes time to build. There is a value in it inherently. People need somewhere to live. There's a value in it inherently. And it's an investment that you can put your money in, and that investment will grow. Okay. But it's not scarce in the same way that gold is scarce, because we can't yet make gold. We've not done alchemy. Although apparently in the esoteric world, alchemy has been done. People have made gold. So that's another discussion. I need an alchemist on the podcast. Get in touch. Reverse. So reverse the idea. So let's say the gold is finite. We only have so much gold on the earth. Therefore, it is scarce, and we can't make more. Same with Bitcoin. There are 21 million Bitcoin. We'll never make more Bitcoin. Therefore, it is scarce and finite, and it cannot be manipulated. The property market, what if the robots were able to make us houses really fast? Like, property is not finite, really. We make these high-rise flats. There is land. People might not need to live in cities anymore. We've already seen that with the pandemic. So there's all these flats in the city, and we have this revolution where people want land and gardens, and we create something equitable and reasonable and very Pluto and Aquarius, where everybody has like a house and a little bit of land, and they grow their own veg. Plausible, very plausible. I don't know what that looks like. Maybe someone's going to get in touch and be like, it's not plausible, but I don't know. I feel like if we do have this move out of the cities, there's going to be all these flats in London and that people don't want to live in. And at the moment, we're at this point where I heard on the radio that it takes 18 months for the property market to react to these interest rate hikes, because people's mortgages have maybe been fixed for 3 years or 5 years. And so a lot of people haven't been hit by these price rises yet, but they will be. And if these interest rates stay high, which is interest rates being high is an Aquarian thing, because Aquarius is the air. And I did a workshop with Wendy Stacy, and she explained that to be fair, that was about Saturn in Aquarius. When Saturn is in Aquarius, interest rates are high. That didn't happen. It's happened with Pluto in Aquarius. And unless we use Vedic astrology, in which case in India, Saturn is still in Aquarius. Debates. But if we have inflation and interest rates and everyone's mortgages going through the roof, at a certain point, the houses are going to have to be sold, and there will be a surplus, and it's supply and demand. And also the value that we put on houses, like, the house prices increased in value. Why? Because the estate agents valued it that way and society valued it that way. It's not real. It's just a consensus that everybody's buying into, in the same way that everybody believes the dollar is valuable because that's what we think. It's just paper. that's attributed, and they keep printing more and more of it. So the actual value isn't what it was because of inflation and interest rates. So you're not getting the same bang for your buck because the money has been manipulated, because they're printing more, because the government's in debt. So there's a big mess, like kind of writing on the wall here. And that's why, you know, people are jumping into the crypto lifeboat because there are only 21 million Bitcoin. And then we're not going through central government. It's not tracked. It's not traceable. People are like, oh, the criminals. Oh, what? Because the government aren't criminals. What? You should be careful. But you know what I mean? It's not like Matt Hancock giving his mates the PPE contracts. PPE? PPE equipment. Giving his mates deals. Was that legit? Don't think so. I don't think so. That was really weird. Like, there was no PPE. There were people in Nottingham calling in the radio being like, look, we've got all the PPE. We're trying to get in touch with the government. They won't take our calls. Of course they wouldn't take the calls because they were waiting for their mates, but it was going to take their mates 6 weeks to have the production. Therefore, there were people in hospitals, nurses and doctors with no PPE. There were people who had the PPE ready to give it to the government, but the government were like, nah, we're waiting for my mate. That's bad. But the government are like, oh no, we can't have crypto. We've got to put everything through us because we need the taxes so we can do manipulative shit like this. Now, that's Capricorn, you see. This is a hierarchy that is being addressed with Pluto, because Pluto addresses and pushes and shows us the best and worst. And that's why often people's Pluto transits are brilliant. I have to say that as well whilst we're here. Those of you, who did I meet? I met somebody in the street yesterday, Monday, Jacqueline. Anyway, she followed me on Instagram. I was just walking down the street. She was like, Francesca. And I was like, hi. And we're having a good chat. And she was 29 degrees Capricorn sun. And she said, it's been brilliant. I've loved it. I've had loads of press. My book's coming out. And I said, yeah, you know, a lot of people have had brilliant Pluto transits. I remember being in Portugal in 2020, meeting a shop owner whose birthday was the 12th of January. And she'd just done a law degree. And she's like, everything I've ever wanted is coming together. It's been really empowering. And Pluto can, in the same way that your Saturn return isn't always horrendous. If you're on path, you get more responsibility. Your Pluto transits are going to strip away everything that you don't need, but they are going to strengthen what is right. So it's very empowering, some of these Pluto transits. And so Pluto is going to move back into Capricorn, and he empowers these individuals who are taking matters into their own hands. There is empowerment for certain structures. There is empowerment for brilliant leaders, but there is also destruction for things that are going wrong, for warped hierarchy, for governance, for toxic corporate governance, of which, you know, it's everywhere. We're seeing in the media. We touched on it last week with everybody at ITV knew what was going on. Let's not pretend that they didn't. This is the issue for me as an astrologer that's interesting. Is like, okay, people, drama, noise, media, PR, spin, but ultimately the hierarchy knew, and they chose not to do anything about it because it was profitable. Profit, Capricorn. And when people are turning a blind eye in the same way that Matt Hancock turned a blind eye and didn't, and the whole government, not just Matt probably, and they didn't take the PPE contracts from the people who were in the UK and had it done already, and they just were like, I cannot hear you. I'm going to go for the cash that serves me. In the same way, when media are going, oh, that's a bit toxic, but, you know, money, because Capricorn is about the cash money, it's a business enterprise. Then, you know, we got a slight issue. And that's when Pluto coming back into Capricorn is going to reveal issues there. And it's within all structures. Remember, in the same way that Pluto in Aquarius opposes Leo and the heart and the revolution, the love revolution, Pluto in Capricorn opposes Cancer and the family structure and the toxic family structure, the sort of the normalized bullshit that goes on in families. I think that is being put under the pressure cooker again for the rest of the year. Just all the normalized stuff. We've gone through generations of this, even in the 20th century. You look at what's changed over the years. And also, now this is controversial, but I'm saying it as a journalist, as a Gemini ascendant, someone who is just passing the information on. Because I was talking to my family about this at the weekend, because I think it's interesting. And we were talking about hormones. I posted something on my Instagram, and I spoke about it last week about how women sometimes are brilliant. We can just go. We've got loads of energy. We're ovulating. We're on fire. But then everything slows down. Our hormones change. We become anxious. I don't want to show my face. I want to hide away from the world. I don't want to hear from anyone. People DM me and I'm like personally affronted. Like most of the time I want to hear from everyone all the time. But then there's a week where I'm just like, you all need to go away. I can't do this. And we are cyclical, and it's cool. Like educating myself on that over the past few years has been a liberation, because it's like, okay, yeah, all the wellness girls, they all know that we have our winter, and for that, you need to be comfortable and you need to sleep more and plan around it. And that's all. But women are like that. And that has sort of been pushed to the side as part of feminism, perhaps. We were like, we're equal, and we are equal, but we're different. And I think maybe Pluto in Cancer, Pluto in Capricorn opposing the Pluto in Cancer, it's going to bring up that conversation a little bit more. It's like, how do we allow for this? And also create space for us to have different roles, and for those roles to be equally respected without the scales tipping too far. When something's coming into balance, and you're balancing things on the scales like flour, it was weighted too far in the favor of men, and then we've pushed it. I'm not saying too far in the favor of women, but we've pushed things like, no, women are equal, blah blah blah. But what we need now is more of a balancing of the different roles, I think, of the feminine and the masculine, and the ways we are able to do things, and allowing, because women can lead, because like when we're at the top of our game, we see things, we take in the whole picture, don't we? It's part of being part of our engine, part of the way women run. But then we have to rest, and that has to be allowed for. And yeah, I'm going to talk to someone about this. I'm going to get someone on the pod, but I just think it's maybe perhaps part of cycles. The moon rules Cancer, and Pluto is going to oppose all Cancerians. And we're looking more about, what is the family structure? What do we want? We want to be able to thrive. I certainly want to be able to work. I don't want to be stuck in the home cleaning. Cancer vibes from a million years ago. I've got a lot of Capricorn energy in my chart, and not much Cancer. I like being the worker, but also being able to say, look, my brain is gone this week, soz. And for everyone to just understand that as normal, and it not even be a conversation. If everyone just get it, like, wouldn't that be easier? Because no one really cares. No one wants to talk about it, but it's just been rejected and pushed away. And same with like roles, and people having to deny it. People have to deny their hormones and emotions, and it being a problem, and it being a source of ridicule. It's not. It's just natural. Get over it. Let's all accept it. Move on. Maybe. Anyway, food for thought. Do you know what I mean? Food for thought. And I think it's part of what we're looking at in this. And remember as well, sorry, that Capricorn is a feminine sign. It is. I remember when Saturn moved into Capricorn in 2017, posting Fraulein Maria, climb every mountain, because Capricorn is the mountain goat. And then being like, Capricorn is a feminine sign. Saturn rules Capricorn. Is Saturn feminine? I don't know. I wouldn't have thought so. Kronos, he's always been described as a man. But when we have the yin and the yang, Capricorn is yin. It is receptive. So it's not, maybe that's also part of the way things need to be structured. The structure should allow for the yin. And because all of nature does in and out, cycles, up and down. We breathe in, we breathe out. Things go up, things go down, which again brings us back to the property market that everybody insanely thinks goes up. Of course, the value of things go up over years because cash doesn't stay flat. You could buy a dairy milk for 5p years ago, and now it's 80p. But it's still the same value. It's just that because the governments keep printing money and inflation, things get inherently more expensive. And there's more millionaires now than ever before, obviously, because a million buys you less than it did 50 years ago. But the inherent value of things, does it keep going up, or we go up and down and we go up and down? And people will say, oh, well, this house is £1 million. Yeah, but so because you now earn 40 grand a year, and 50 years ago you earn, I don't know, £1,000 a year. So that we're talking about real value, not like graph value, because those graphs, like in real terms, give me the graph in real terms, please. Like deleting the inflation, the actual, like, compared to what people earn. I'm an economist, but you hear what I'm saying. It's not going up and up and up, because it's not real. It's the numbers have changed. The chocolate bars have changed. The Big Mac's changed. Everything's changed. So actually, when we look at it, it's just up and down, up and down, up and down. It's not this perpetual up. And again, maybe that needs to, when Pluto moves into Aquarius, when everything's more transparent and factual and data driven, we're not looking at this Capricorn growth obsession, which is climbing the mountain. But is Capricorn obsessed with growth? Or is Capricorn interested in productivity, in genuine productivity? Okay, again, let's come back to my notes. I wanted to keep this short, probably even longer than last week. Okay, so Thursday we got what? We've got Moon trine Sun, the Moon in Aquarius, and the Sun in Gemini. Lovely. Looks like a nice Thursday, I believe. We do also have the Moon square to Uranus. We could have some shocks and surprises, but I think we're used to that by now. Maybe some burst of communication, but because we have the Moon and Sun in an air sign, we are able to communicate and deal with any shocks and surprises. Friday, the Moon enters Pisces, meets Saturn. We never love a Moon Saturn, but the Moon in Pisces is sweet and sensitive and artistic, but it's conjunct Saturn. I would be working, I would work hard, play hard could be nice for Friday, particularly in the UK. If you've applied yourself this week, you could have a lovely relax on Friday night. But Moon conjunct Saturn, make sure you get everything together. It can sometimes be a little bit of a mood hoover, but it does come with the but. And it comes with a but because I think that Saturn, if you have done what you need to do, is quite rewarding. Saturday, we have the Moon moving to Neptune, and we have the final quarter. So what did I say in cycles for the final quarter? Sweet release, let it go. Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, of the Gemini sun, is at the final degree of Taurus. Okay, yeah. That's kind of towards the evening. So the new moon is at what time? 8:30 in the evening. So yeah. So by then, Mercury will be at 29. Now, you know how I feel when Mercury is at 29 of an earth sign, he is often frustrated that everyone is taking so long to think and speak and do. So they can be like, come on, let's go. This is often met with frustration, and tech becomes entrenched in stubborn slowness. Saturday evening. However, this final quarter moon in Pisces reminds us to drop into our body and listen for the wisdom of nature. It's folly to try and speed things up. Drop down a gear. It's the most productive thing you can do, as ideas will flow when you join the Venus and Mars in Leo vibe and have some fun. Become creatively inspired. And again, I wrote that ages ago, but when I read it, it felt very aligned, because I am of the thought that this Venus and Mars in Leo is very much about rest and integration. And by rest and integration, I mean that we've been pushing all planets direct, solar eclipse in Aries, making things happen. And now it is time to paint your pictures and enjoy them and learn from them and improve your craft, play, be yourself. The Leo planets are being released from the Pluto opposition, and this Venus retrograde is also going to teach us a lot about what we love, what we value. There's a lot to come throughout that. Then we get to Sunday, okay? Finally, after the final quarter moon. The final quarter moon, by the way, look to 9 months ago when we had the full moon in Pisces, which would have been sometime in September, I presume. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember what happened at that full moon. You have to look at it and then look 9 months previous to look at the first quarter and then 9 months prior to that. So we're looking at the new moon. So the first quarter would have been in December 21 and the new moon would have been March 2021. So whatever started for you March 2021 is really being liberated now at the final quarter 2023. Do you follow that? That's the lunar gestation cycle. Just check I've done that right. So we've got new moon March 21, first quarter moon December 21, full moon September 22, final quarter, whatever we are now, June 2023. And that means all those moons happened at exactly the same place in the sky, which is roughly 19 degrees of Pisces. And there is a story that unravels via that lunar gestation phase. Sunday is the big one. Sunday I've already spoken about at the beginning because we've got Mercury moving to Gemini, the sign he loves to be in. He'll like elbow his way out of Taurus and be delighted to be in Gemini, being quick and witty and clever and being able to write so much. We will have also the moon at 29 of Pisces briefly when Pluto moves back to Capricorn. So there's going to be a certain point. Let's just move this back an hour. Okay, no. But we're looking at Sunday lunchtime for some kind of shift. Now, will it be felt straight away? Maybe, yeah, I think so. Maybe on a subtle level. It'd be very interesting to take note of Sunday. It's a very notable day, worth thinking about the people you see, what you do, what's going on, the conversations you have. Be very mindful that Mercury is now in clever Gemini and people might be being witty, especially when we've got the moon in Pisces. White lies, like mutable signs will go around a problem instead of confront it. So when we've got the moon in Pisces and Mercury in Gemini, but your imagination could be great. This is still a void of course moon after the moon has left Neptune. So Sunday morning, there's like great creativity, able to get things done, put things out there, sort of move around issues, sell your ideas, step into that void, that 12th house space of creative imagination and roll with it. There's something special about that kind of late Sunday morning vibe. And then with Pluto back in Capricorn, that's everything I've already talked about in the pod. And Mercury running free in Gemini, great for Geminis, great for anyone who's an air sign or a fire sign. All of us really. Mercury's at home in the signy rules, and our brains are functioning in a very literal, articulate way. So that could bring us more connections, bring us more ideas. I've written bombastic for Monday. Monday's bombastic, apparently. I believe that's because the moon will be in Aries. And yeah, and she'll meet Chiron, moon in Aries. We are making things happen. You know, it's back to work on Monday. We've now got Pluto in Capricorn. We've got moon in Aries. There's a bit of cardinality. Yes, you had a nice weekend, I hope. You've chilled out with the Pisces moon and those Leo planets. There's been some relaxation, some creativity. And then Monday is like, boom, let's get moving. Mercury's ready to go. The moon is ready to launch. There is an energy, even though we've got a waxing moon and we're past the final quarter. It's like, what can we wrap up? Let's sew this up. Bear that in mind. Bear the moon phase in mind. What are we moving past? But there's an energy and vigor to be able to get it done. It could be throwing more of your stuff out. Everybody's all over throwing stuff out at the minute. A lot of you said that. I wrote that on Instagram. A lot of people agreed. And then on the 13th, we have, well, in the States is a moon Jupiter. For us, it's Wednesday morning in the UK. Moon moves to Taurus and conjuncts the North Node in Jupiter. I've moved on to Wednesday. Tuesday, have I got anything? Yeah, Tuesday could be a bit tricky in all honesty. Tuesday could, because the moon will be at the end of Aries, moving towards the North Node square to Pluto, activating the eclipse degree again. if, again, just repeating what I said for Monday, it's a little bit bombastic. There's this urge to get things done, finish things off. Pluto's at 29 Capricorn. That was an intense time in March when we were looking at the finishing. It was very like staring down endings. It was staring things down and asking us to step up. We might see it challenged. We'll talk about it more next week. I'll be curious to see how we feel in that energy. It's been nice. It's been an interesting relief. It's been interesting experiencing Pluto in Aquarius and the shifts and the AI. Oh my goodness. But it's going to be very curious to see what Pluto finishes, because we've got this more distinction in being able to see what's going on in the future and what's going on now. Anyway, boring myself. Are you bored yet? We've got the Moon Jupiter North Node in Taurus on Wednesday. It's beautiful. It's absolutely great. I think that's so nice. So we have the Moon Jupiter North Node in Taurus, and they will square Venus. What can I see there? I feel like there's something. Okay, we know what Venus and Mars mean. Venus is at 8 and Mars is at 14. They are already having a lovely time. Charm, beauty. If you're not beautifying yourself, if you're not celebrating yourself with whatever that it means to you, I think you're missing a trick. I think this is a great opportunity. Yes, get rid of things that don't bring you joy. That's one thing. Let's not forget Uranus is in Taurus. There is about value and quality and offering quality and bringing quality to the table. Warnings: overpromising, overshopping, overspending. Like going to get your hair dye and being like, fuck it, I'm going to go bleach blonde, and then being like, ooh, did I mean to do that? But also maybe you go for it and you love it. It depends. There's something about maybe an exaggeration, but maybe it's wonderful. You could really, really, at best, this is a push to enjoy the moment, enjoy your life, really sit with it. Stop striving for more, be the lioness, be the cat. Just enjoy yourself. It's been a slog. It's been full pelt, and it might still be full pelt next week. I will tune into it properly when we're there, but I would like to think this is summer loving, and it's just great at best. Nice. I haven't checked the weather. Should we have a quick look at the weather for next week? Because it's very windy at the minute. I know it's sunny, but here in the UK, it is windy. Okay, Wednesday next week, 24 degrees and sunny. I would say that it's properly hot next week and really nice. And we've not got this savage, irritating, hay fever-inducing wind, which makes it look great out there. Then you go outside and you put your hat on. What the hell is going on? Very wet weekend, but the moon's in Pisces. What to expect? It looks hot as well. 27 degrees and 70% rain on Saturday. What's that about? We're getting storms. So we'll see. TBC. Okay, I've really genuinely bored myself now, so I'm going to stop. And that's this week's podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show. Is it a show? Is it? Do we call podcast shows? Anyway, Learn to Read Your Birth Chart is starting on the 13th. It's the last time I'm doing it this year because Uranus gets to my moon. I am flying off. I don't want to make false promises and be like, I'm not doing it again, and then launch it in November. If I do it again, if it's in November. Yeah, basically. But other than that, it's definitely not until November, and that might not happen. So if you want to do it now. You can always join again if I do it again. And like, I normally charge people 20, 30 quid to join in again and get involved with all the Q&As and all the new email cascades and basically the energy and momentum of the group, because the group is great. And what else? My new website is live, which is exciting. I know I kind of did it at the eclipse, but it's properly there now. It's taken a lot. Every little decision is a lot, particularly for me with my artistic challenges, as previously explained. And we are doing a live podcast on the 11th of July in Richmond. And I hope that will be, I'll put it on my website, or I'll link to Bingham River House's page so that you can get involved with tickets. And there's not many spaces. So I'm only going to announce it on the podcast initially, just to see if anybody who listens wants to come, and then I'll start spamming everybody. But hopefully you can make it. It'll be really great to do something live in person, not in my room with all the noise. And we'll look at the astrology of the week ahead and all the things we normally do. So this has been the Astrology Oddcast on the 7th of June, and we will see you next week.